Geneva, a city synonymous with diplomacy, finds itself once again at the heart of negotiations aimed at ending the devastating war in Ukraine. After months of impasse, Ukrainian and Russian delegations have returned to the negotiating table. The resumption of talks has ignited a flicker of hope in a conflict that has brought immense suffering and geopolitical upheaval. The stakes couldn't be higher. The world watches with bated breath, questioning whether these talks represent a genuine opportunity for peace or merely an illusion. The recent diplomatic efforts have been marked by both progress and setbacks. Lower-level officials from Ukraine and Russia continue to engage in dialogue, seeking common ground on critical issues. However, the path to peace remains treacherous, fraught with deep mistrust and seemingly irreconcilable positions. The international community, acutely aware of the conflict's global implications, is closely monitoring the situation. There is a shared sense of urgency to find a resolution that can prevent further bloodshed and instability. Despite the resumption of talks, the situation on the ground remains volatile. Fighting continues in eastern Ukraine, a stark reminder of the fragility of any negotiated ceasefire. The human cost of the conflict is immeasurable, with countless lives lost and communities shattered. Millions have been displaced, seeking refuge both within Ukraine and across international borders. The war has had a profound impact on the global economy, disrupting supply chains and exacerbating existing economic challenges. As the talks proceed, the world holds its breath, hoping for a breakthrough. The path to peace is arduous, but the pursuit of a negotiated settlement remains the only viable option to end the suffering and prevent further escalation of this devastating conflict. The international community must stand united in its support for a peaceful resolution, urging all parties to engage in good faith and prioritize the lives and well-being of those caught in the crossfire. At the heart of the Geneva talks lies a fundamental clash of perspectives, with Ukraine and Russia entrenched in seemingly irreconcilable positions. Ukraine, having endured a brutal invasion and occupation of its sovereign territory, demands the complete withdrawal of Russian forces and the restoration of its territorial integrity. This includes the return of Crimea, annexed by Russia in 2014, and the Donbas region, controlled by Russian-backed separatists. For Ukraine, compromise on its sovereignty and territorial integrity is non-negotiable. Russia, on the other hand, remains intransigent in its demands, seeking to legitimize its territorial gains and secure its strategic interests in the region. The Kremlin insists on Ukraine's neutrality, precluding its membership in NATO. Moscow also demands recognition of its annexation of Crimea and the independence of the self-proclaimed republics in Donetsk and Luhansk. These demands, viewed by Ukraine and its Western allies as a violation of international law and an infringement on Ukraine's sovereignty, present a formidable obstacle to a negotiated settlement. The chasm between the two sides' positions underscores the immense challenges facing negotiators. The Kremlin's insistence on territorial concessions and Ukraine's unwavering commitment to its sovereignty create a seemingly insurmountable impasse. Moreover, deep mistrust between the parties, fueled by years of conflict and animosity, further complicates the path to a resolution. The international community faces the daunting task of bridging this divide and finding a solution acceptable to both sides. While the resumption of talks offers a glimmer of hope, the road to peace remains long and uncertain. The unwavering demands of both Ukraine and Russia, coupled with the complex geopolitical realities at play, suggest that a swift resolution to the conflict is unlikely. Even as diplomats engage in delicate negotiations in Geneva, the grim reality of the ongoing war continues to cast a long shadow over the peace process. Despite renewed diplomatic efforts, eastern Ukraine remains a battleground, with missile strikes and artillery shelling a tragic testament to the disconnect between words and actions. The relentless barrage of Russian missiles targeting civilian infrastructure, including hospitals, schools, and residential areas, underscores the human cost of the conflict and the fragility of any negotiated ceasefire. The ongoing violence not only claims innocent lives, but also undermines trust and fuels animosity between the warring parties. Each missile strike serves as a stark reminder of the deep-seated grievances and the challenges in finding common ground. The international community has condemned the attacks on civilians, calling for an immediate cessation of hostilities and respect for international humanitarian law. However, these pleas have gone unheeded, with the violence continuing unabated. The persistence of missile strikes, despite diplomatic efforts, raises serious concerns about Russia's commitment to a peaceful resolution. Some analysts suggest that the Kremlin is using the talks as a smokescreen, buying time to regroup its forces and advance its military objectives. Others argue that the missile strikes are intended to weaken Ukraine's negotiating position and force concessions. Regardless of the motivation, the ongoing violence has a devastating impact on the lives of ordinary Ukrainians. The constant fear of missile attacks has forced millions to flee their homes, seeking refuge in underground shelters or fleeing to safer regions. The destruction of critical infrastructure has left many without access to basic necessities, including water, electricity, and medical care. Throughout the tumultuous months of conflict, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has emerged as a symbol of his nation's resilience and determination. His unwavering commitment to Ukrainian sovereignty and his refusal to bow to Russian pressure have earned him admiration both domestically and internationally. Zelensky's leadership has been instrumental in rallying international support for Ukraine, securing vital military aid and economic assistance from Western allies. Initially dismissed by some as a political novice, Zelensky has defied expectations, demonstrating remarkable courage and resolve in the face of Russian aggression. His nightly addresses to the nation, delivered with a mix of defiance and empathy, have become a source of inspiration for Ukrainians, reminding them that they are not alone in their struggle. Zelensky's wartime leadership has been characterized by his ability to connect with ordinary Ukrainians, sharing their fears and aspirations. Zelensky has repeatedly emphasized that Ukraine is fighting not only for its own survival, but also for the principles of democracy and freedom. He has called on the international community to stand with Ukraine, not just with words, but with concrete actions that can help Ukraine defend itself against Russian aggression. His appeals have resonated with Western leaders who have responded with unprecedented sanctions against Russia and military aid to Ukraine. However, Zelensky faces immense challenges as he navigates the complexities of war and diplomacy. He must balance the demands of his people, who seek retribution for Russian atrocities, with the need for a negotiated settlement that can end the bloodshed. Zelensky's resolve will be tested as he seeks to secure a peace agreement that preserves Ukraine's sovereignty and territorial integrity while ensuring the safety and security of its citizens. The ongoing conflict in Ukraine has not only resulted in immense human suffering, but has also raised profound questions about the effectiveness of international law and the post-World War II security architecture. Russia's blatant violation of Ukraine's sovereignty and its disregard for international norms have shaken the foundations of the rules-based order, leaving many wondering if the existing mechanisms are adequate to address the challenges posed by state aggression in the 21st century. The annexation of Crimea in 2014 and the subsequent invasion of Ukraine in 2022 have exposed the limitations of international institutions, like the United Nations Security Council, where Russia, as a permanent member, holds veto power. This has prevented the Security Council from taking decisive action to address the crisis, highlighting the need for reforms that can enhance the effectiveness of the UN in responding to threats to international peace and security. Moreover, the conflict has revealed the challenges of enforcing international law and holding aggressors accountable. While the International Criminal Court, or ICC, has opened an investigation into alleged war crimes and crimes against humanity committed in Ukraine, bringing perpetrators to justice remains a complex and lengthy process. The lack of a swift and effective mechanism to enforce international law raises concerns about impunity and emboldens other potential aggressors. The crisis in Ukraine has underscored the urgent need for a renewed commitment to multilateralism and a strengthening of international institutions. The rules-based order, while imperfect, remains the best hope for a more peaceful and just world. The international community must work together to address the shortcomings of the existing system, ensuring that it is capable of upholding international law, deterring aggression, and protecting the sovereignty of all nations.